Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. My name, as she has given a very beautiful introduction about me, is Dr. Sasi Malik Sher. And I introduce myself with an easier introduction. I'm one of the 5 Sher sisters who qualified the competitive exam. I'm the third one. First of all, I'd like to thank the authorities here who have selected me to come here and share my words and my thoughts. It is such an honor to be here, and I've come to this college for the very first time. Thank you for having me. So when the topic was given to me, envisioned by visionaries, and I was penning a few points down coming here to this university, and it struck my mind that who is a visionary, first of all? And after a little thinking, it came to me that it is basically that one person who can see beyond what is into what could be. And these people are very rare, I tell you. So, talks are at times pretty boring. So I'll make mine a little interesting by telling you a little story. So there was a small town, a small village, in which a boy was born with beautiful green eyes. But that village was filled with cultural things and traditions and how a thing should be and how the girls should behave and how the boys should behave. Girls should not be sent to school because, they'd learn a lot of things. And boys, they need to be educated because they need to take care of a whole family. They are the breadwinners of the family. So, as kids, he would sit with his sisters, play with his sisters, and as the siblings talk to each other, share their dreams. The sisters would share all their dreams with him, what they wanted to be when they grow up, what would they do, how would their life be. But then he started seeing the difference when he started growing. According to him, he said that he was wearing a uniform one day and he found one of his sisters wearing a bridal dress, going into somebody else's home, leaving all the dreams and wishes that she had behind. Then he was entering the classroom once, and his sisters were entering somebody else's house, leaving all their wishes and dreams back at their father's place. So, because he belonged to an area where such questions could not be asked, because that would be against the tradition. So he grew up, but he had those questions deep inside his heart, but he could not ask. So he grew up into a gentleman, went to a university, a good college, but he was serving in Rawalpindi, and there was an acquaintance who narrated this story, that they crossed the road and there was a line of little girls going into the school. They were wearing long navy blue skirts with white baby collar dress shirts, and they were girls of convent school. At that time, the uniform used to be very different. He told that man back in 1980s that if I have daughters, I am going to send them to this school. And that person said that I laughed out loud that at that time, back in 1980s, you did not expect to have daughters. At least you did not expect. You expected to have sons. Later on, if you had daughters, of course, you could do nothing about it. But expecting to have daughters and then sending them to a specific school, choosing a school before they were even born, before the man was even married, was a strange idea. When that person came home, there was just one condition that he put to his mother. He said that he wanted to marry an educated girl. He did not care how she looked like. He did not care where did she belong to. She needs to be educated, and that's all. So that man married my mother. So they, of course, had 5 beautiful daughters. One is standing right here. One of my paternal uncles actually narrated another story to me, and they said that when the eldest daughter, her name is Laila Malik Sher, and she is right now serving as an additional commissioner in Karachi. When she was born, and my father was calling everyone that the daughter has been born, and he called my uncle and told him that the mother is doing fine, alhamdulillah, she's good. And Leila is also doing fine, she's good. And he said, I congratulated him and I hung the phone up. And then I realized that what did he just say? It was 1986. And he actually had already named the baby before the baby was born. And he was calling people and telling them that Leila was born. He was already expecting that if it's a girl, I will name her this. I know it sounds different right now because we're in 2025. But back in 1986, it was not a very common thing. So, you know, one man with vision changed the whole generation. Visions are not always loud. You know, he was never part of these women marches, not at all. But he was breaking the cultures which were not good for women, which should not have been followed at the time when his sisters were young. So he fought a culture by taking good decisions at his own place, where he could. So, you know, coming from a place where women were told not to speak more, not to be more prominent, not to have dreams, not to be whatever they wanted to be, he built up a daughter who's right now standing here and talking to hundreds and thousands of people right now. So his vision was to build people, especially girls, the daughters who can build nations. As Napoleon Bonaparte said, give me good mothers and I will give you a good nation. He sure was a follower of that. So, you know, in that time when a debate in my family was going on that the girls should work or not, should the girls be sent to the offices or not, is it a safe place for the girls or not, my father was sitting at the dining table with us every night at dinner time, and he was talking about economic independence. He would tell us that it's not a luxury, it's a need. Girls need to be economically independent so that they don't go around asking for little things that they need. So, there is a very standard statement in our society, ke log kya kahenge? That was going on in our family, ke log kya kahenge? And there was this father of mine where people would come and tell him right in front of us that you have 5 daughters, you need to marry them off well in time. 5 के शादियां कितना time लगाएंगे कराने में? And he would tell us that, you know, as fate has it, we already have a belief on this fact that there's a right time to get married and you will get married when that time comes. The nature takes its course. So he was always very chill about it. He never took stress about it, and he kept on telling us, chase your dreams, be what you want to be, get wherever you want to be, and then of course get married as well. That is part of life, that is not the whole of it. But in our family, it was sort of taken as a goal. If the girl's married, she's got everything. No, that's not it. It is part of life. So, here I am. I became a doctor in 2016, then a CSS officer in 2017, then a wife, a mother, and now a mentor to thousands of students for CSS, PMS, and judiciary. So, you know, one visionary man can bring such a change in society. I derived my visions from his vision. After qualifying CSS, I realized one fact, that there were a number of people misguiding out there. I had 2 sisters who were already civil servants, but the course had changed. The whole syllabus of FPSC had changed by the time I was preparing for it. So there was not much of the help. And the people that I went to, the academies I joined, all of them, most of them were misguiding. So when I qualified, I promised myself that no other Sasi is going to go through all of that pain, looking for people to guide them, asking people to help them. So I made a page on Instagram with the name of Sasi's Life. So I started sharing how an officer's life looks like, and I started guiding people in the inbox, in comments, wherever people would come to me. And today, I am the most followed CSS officer on social media. I have guided, I don't know if I have a count for that, maybe 50,000 plus maybe. I have formal 3,500 students whom I have taught in my classes, but other than that, there are innumerable students which I don't know if I can count at all. So I guide people every day, each and every day. With that, my mother took it one step further. She built a civil services institute, an academy for CSS aspirants, because there were a number of academies out there and they were all for business. All they cared for was the money that would come in. But my mother started this venture and I was with her in all of this. She guided me, she told me how to go about it, and then she introduced a scholarship, and a scholarship that a mother would introduce for orphans, for single girls, single parents if the student has one, and all the possible options that a mother can think of. So, you know, it's not about money or fee at Civil Services Institute. It's about guiding and mentoring people, which I myself am doing it very much there. Well, with that, my father's vision again that women need to be in civil service, women need to serve Pakistan. I think his idea is good enough because more women are needed in our executive arena, in policy making. I became a mother, and that is when I realized that it was so difficult to come to office with two little babies, two little kids, leaving them behind, and throughout the day I would keep checking the cameras, and then it clicked that how are all the other women working? So I started building play areas and nurseries wherever I went. So I have made a chain of 6 daycare centers, which I have in my mind for the teachers in schools wherever I served. And the productivity increased to 100%. The absentees dropped, the productivity increased, the time that the women could give in school was more because they could go in the room, see that their kids were doing fine, and come back do their job again. It is very, very important for women to be in the policy making, for women to be making rules to comfort other women. I understand that men are also empathetic, but the level on which a woman would understand another woman, men probably cannot. So we need women on that. Okay, there's a very, very important thing that I always talk about wherever I get chance, that is the double shift. In international relations, now this is being taught as part of the syllabus. You know, a woman, now we've moved one step ahead. Now people have started educating their daughters. Now they go to school, to college. Now they do their jobs. But when they come back, they have to clean. They have to cook. They have to do the laundry. They have to do the grocery. So I'm talking to all the men, boys, potential future husbands here in the hall, or anybody who will be listening to me on YouTube, that you will have to be an understanding partner. You will have to be a team member. Only then this burden can be shed off from the women's shoulder. Because this is termed as a double shift. The first shift completes in the office, and they come back and start the second shift of work at home. Please do not leave them alone in that. What do visionaries envision? It's not castles in the sky. They have very simple visions and very small ones, but the impacts are really big and great. They need safe homes, building safe homes for their daughters, especially in the world that we're living in right now. Fair chances for everyone, and real visionaries build people. So I would like to end my speech on a very simple note, which we have heard a lot, but I will just say it once again. Do not try to change the world, because it will not. Be the change you want to see in this world, and the world around you will change. Thank you very much.